just before we versed Newcastle, they came up to me and said, look, we're going to offer you a 1-year deal.
Wow.
And they go, like, prove yourself.
Was that after the camp?
That was right. So we had the camp all week, and then we were playing Newcastle Jets in a friendly game, and it was right before, like literally as we were hopping on the bus to go to the Newcastle to
They
verse
said we want to
Newcastle.
give you a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
You hadn't even played yet. Welcome back. We're on. Are we live? Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Bailey Talks, episode 25. I had to double check because I've literally lost track. We've had a few good weeks. We had a week off last week. All in preparation for today's episode. Lockie Rose, professional A-League player for the Newcastle Jets. Lockie, thanks for joining us today, mate. We're literally just sitting here talking about theft in Newcastle, which is a terrible starting point because we love Newcastle. Mate, thanks for coming on the show today. How are you? How you going, all right?
Yeah, good. Thanks
we were just chatting before you walked up, and we were messaging last night as well about yesterday's game, mate. Bit of a shellacking for those viewers out there. Can you run me through yesterday's events, mate, and how you boys played yesterday?
Yeah, that was obviously a tough game.
Yeah.
We had, as I was saying to you before, we had 3 games in 7 days, so that doesn't really help.
That's not ideal.
The top 3, so boys are a bit fatigued and stuff, but I think mentally we were quite drained from the week, and it showed on the field. But at the end of the day, like, we just got to back it up next match and go again. We were 7 games undefeated, so we've had a really good run, and then obviously this has happened, but as I said, that's part of football.
Well, I was saying to you as well, like the contrast of the week before scoring the game-winning goal to getting pumped, like mentally for you, is that just a case of just back to the drawing board, regrouping with the team, recovering, and then mentally preparing for the week after?
Yeah, it's like any other sport, especially like you got NRL, AFL, like it's all the same. Like one game you can be flying and get a really good result, and then the next game things just don't go your way. But as I said, that's part of sport. You just got to learn to deal with those things and overcome them, because if you don't, then you're just going to keep going down. And with our group, I know we'll overcome that little hiccup in the road and keep pushing. I think we've got 6 games left to try to make finals. So
where are you sitting at the moment on the table?
We're sitting 9th.
Okay.
So, yeah, we've had a really good run, but we want to keep going. So
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we can talk about that after the next 6 games if we're in the finals or not, and that's our plan. We just want to keep winning game by game. Every game's a grand final for us at the moment.
What's it like being on like a 7-game win streak? Like, is that just something where confidence is high, the boys are pumped, like the feels before the game? Like, do you feel like when you get on a bit of a roll, it's almost easier to keep that roll going?
Yeah, for us it was more like when I look at it, it was like we had a couple of draws in there, but it was like 7 games undefeated, which for us is a very big confidence booster.
Yeah.
And especially when we're versing a lot of the top 6 sides, and when we're beating them or we're having a draw with the team that's coming first, and we probably should have won that game, you know what I mean? It is very big in the sense of boosting your confidence.
For sure.
But also, like, for us, it's just, you got to keep going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Once last week's done, it's done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't
get complacent too.
Exactly. And you can't keep focusing on that. But when you get a taste of winning, you just want to win more.
Keep winning.
It's like anything in life. You know what I mean? When you do something really good, you want to keep doing it.
Yeah,
you know
true.
So,
true. It's like having 20 beers on a weekend. You just want to... it's the cycle, mate. You get to the next Friday, you say you're not having another beer, and then you get to Friday, turns out we're at the pub again. Hey, last week I did want to touch on, and Jay, I did want you to jump in on this as well. We missed the international. It was International Women's Day, right? I just want to make a quick point on that because I had heaps of notes on it last week, but we obviously didn't have a podcast. And I wanted to ask you, Lockie and Jay, International Women's Day. What did that mean to you, Jay as a dad, Lockie as a son? I know for me personally, I think it's a shame there has to be a day for you to sort of reach out to a few people, women around you, and sort of say, you know, I love you, you know, this is what I'm grateful for. But I think for me personally, it was a nice little reminder to connect with mum again and my partner and even my partner's family. And I think it's really important that we have a day on the calendar where we can, you know, express our gratitude to those women in our lives. And I was curious to get your boys' thoughts on International Women's Day and what that meant to you, and if you reached out to anyone. And Lockie, if you want to start, mate, if you had anyone.
Yeah, obviously, I think, as you said, it's sort of like it should be done every day.
Yeah.
But to have a day like when you just fully recognise it, I think it's great. Because there's a lot of stuff that women do that is just amazing.
For sure.
And I think sometimes it goes unnoticed. So I think, yeah, just the day itself, and as you said, speaking to your mum and stuff, like those type of things mean a lot to them as well when you recognise those things. So just take a time to reflect on everything and speak to your loved ones about that kind of stuff is just awesome. And especially in different workplaces as well. It's not just family, it's people you work with, you know what I mean? And identifying those scenarios and going like, thank you for doing such a great job sort of thing. And I think it's good to really look at that side of things.
Yeah. And obviously I'm keen to touch on, and we'll get into a little bit about your story growing up, moving from Sydney, clubs you'd been at previously, your journey as a professional athlete. But Jay, did you want to give me, how was your day? How was your International Women's Day, mate?
It was good. It was good. I ran a event over at Junction Hotel.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah.
Tell me about that day.
It was good. It was good. Had what's her name? Janine.
Yeah,
Alice,
big dog.
chick that owns Boost.
Yeah. She's in the Shark Tank.
Shark Tank, Survivor, all of that jazz. And Michelle Bridges from Biggest Loser.
Biggest Loser.
Yeah. So, she was gone. Michelle, I preferred Michelle more than Janine, but
bit more personable.
A bit more charismatic per se. And
Janine, just a bit of, where's your personality, mate?
But, she was in and out, and the chauffeur was at the door at 4:05 to pick her up, and
that's a bit disappointing.
Anyway, but yeah, no, the day was good, but I think it's International Women's Day, like we've said, it should be celebrated every day. But I think on my end, it's gotten a little bit deeper since having kids as well. So having a daughter that's about to turn 7, and actually as well, Luca that's turning 4 as well. Showing him about the importance of women as well, and the respect and everything like that. It starts at that age. So it was good. It was good to get home and see my partner, and since we've been together for 16 years next month, it's just good to celebrate her as well and how much of a great mum she is. And even though she didn't really accept it because she's 22 weeks pregnant, but I still got the point across and still said it. But it should be every day.
Is she hating you at the moment, or?
She wants me. No, to be fair, she doesn't want me out the door. She wants me home more, but she understands. She's like, well, if we need to pay rent, we need to pay rent.
Keep working. Get home, but I hate you.
I want you home. I want them cuddles.
Exactly.
But also, can you fuck off?
Yeah, can you get out of here?
I was thinking like, I feel like, well, for my mum, and you boys might agree, but if you're going through some shit, or like, you something's happened, like the first thing that pops to my mind is like my previous relationship. When I broke up, I was like, I didn't know who to talk to about it. I was like, I can't talk to Dad about it. He's probably going to laugh at me. Like some of the boys are probably going to laugh at me. I was actually pretty cut. I was like, oh, I know mum will listen. And I remember calling mum, and mate, mums are just so good for listening and being there for you no matter. And you don't need to feel bad. You don't need to feel guilty. Like mums are they just get it. They're just beasts.
See, my mum's good like that. Like she'll listen, but also like if she's gonna rinse me, she's gonna rinse.
She's still gonna rinse you. Yeah.
If I might make a silly decision, she'll be like, what are you doing?
Oh, I think with parents,
which is good though. You need
have to have it.
You have to have like as I said, happy medium.
Because honestly, you can't. Yeah, honesty is key. I know my dad. He's pretty tough on me, and he's the sort to just feel like he would just tell me things straight. Like if I'm being a dickhead, or if I'm doing something, or he doesn't agree with what I've done, like he's telling me, like he's calling, going, mate, this is. Whereas mum's a little bit more empathetic and a bit more. So I think when I'm chasing like just like a bit of a cuddle and a bit of reassurance, I think mum's the one to go to. Whereas dad, nah, I'm avoiding him at all costs.
Yeah, so I'm grateful for my mum because she like literally like my parents live in Sydney, so my mum and dad, like they both come up to a lot of the games. My mum always wants to come up, but at our game, she'll never want to. Like I always get them like the box tickets at the games just to make it a bit more comfy for them. My mum never sits there.
She wants to sit
in the crowd with my
she's got my
jersey on with my name and number on the back, and she's just really proud of me.
Proud, mate.
Yeah, for me, that's just like. As much as sometimes you can get a little bit embarrassed, like, oh, mum, like relax a little bit, but it all comes from a good heart, and And I'm just, so
Mate, I
grateful
nearly
for
wanted to
that.
reshare that goal from last week. So I can't imagine her mum and dad. They would have been posting on Facebook, send it to their friends.
Yeah, I got a nice message from mum after the game. So
Yeah.
good work, love you. So I was like buzzing with that.
Oh, mate. Hey, I wanted to share a little, very quick story before we get into your story, Locke. But over the weekend, and this was just, I don't know if I've told you this story yet, Jay, but you might like this. I was talking to mum and dad, and they've got a little dog, a little cavoodle, and they called me and said, oh, Gabby went to the vet last night to emergency. And I said, oh, shit, like what happened? They said, she was on the beach. They took her for a walk and she was chewing something on the beach. They couldn't see what it was. And she got home. She was like stumbling on her feet. She couldn't stand up. She couldn't walk. And it got to about 8 p.m. where they were like, all right, we're going to have to take Gabby to the vet. Took her to the vet. Took her there. They took her bloods. And they said, look, if you're going to keep her overnight, it's going to be $2,500 a night at the vet. So mum and dad were like, fuck, it's pretty steep. Like, she's sort of looking a bit better. Like, do you just cop the cost and make sure she's all right? Anyway, they decided to pull the pin. They're like, nah, she's all right. She'll be sweet. Got the results back that night about what had been in her system. Guess what she had in her system that she was cooked from?
Oh no, I don't know.
She tested positive to cannabis.
What?
Did I tell you this? So she had chewed up weed. So she was stoned. So she had chewed up weed on the beach, swallowed it, and she was stoned. So this got me thinking, like, I was on Google and I was like, what would be some of the really common causes that dogs or animals are going to the vet for an emergency? Because I've never heard of a dog or a cat eating. It would happen, but I've never heard of a dog getting
not
stoned.
that.
So
All
Gabby,
I know more like the Christmas ham. I know that's a bad
that's a good one.
And the chocolate.
Chocky's a good one. So
Isn't there like say like razor blades and stuff like that? Like
oh,
sharp objects as
that
well?
would be bad. That was one of them. But the first thing I googled, ChatGPT, thank you, top 5 most common food related poisonings for dogs, because I was curious to know like if this was something that was common or not. One was chocolate, which I thought that made sense. Grapes and raisins apparently can cause acute kidney failure, so that's second most popular. Onions and garlic apparently is really, really bad for dogs. Any artificial sweeteners. And finally, this is one that I think makes sense, alcohol. So dogs, cats,
your dogs
getting on the
around
piss
blind, yeah.
is really toxic for their stomach. So
No beers.
cannabis is not on the list, but
is all right.
it might be a strong 6. I don't know. But that was just a little story over the weekend. Curious to get your opinion on this, Lockie and Jay. This was interesting. So this happened last week on our week off. Marty's comments on the radio. I'm sure you would have heard about the this sexist, feminist comments he made in regards to Matildas. If you haven't read this news, I'm sure you probably have, because it was pretty viral for a bit there. He's been dropped. Triple M, boom, see you later. He said that the Matildas reminded him of Year 10 girls. I know this is old news, but I did want to talk about it with you boys. And he also said that the Women's Asian Cup, he would rather hammer a nail through his cock than watch them compete.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Hot water.
See, I'm probably a bit older than you boys, but we grew up with soccer, right? Women's soccer wasn't really a thing when we were growing up. Remember when, like, I'm sure, Lockie, when you were playing soccer, a lot of the better girl players would have been playing in the guys' teams. Now, if you look at it, mate, they're selling out stadiums.
Yeah.
So, like, for him to say those things, and I'm going to preface this, I wasn't a good footy player or a soccer player, but I remember when I was playing like juniors, I used to play for Belmont, a local side here, and Emily Van Egmond played in a local team at Dudley. Mate, she was the best player on the football pitch above everyone. She would dice us up, absolutely dice us up. And we were young then. We were like, how the hell is a chick
smoking us?
doing 4 step overs, then real letting us and putting it top ins? And we're going, mate, we're 11. What's going on? And she killed it. And she, look at her now. She's absolutely flying. But yeah, those types of statements is just...
Yeah, I thought
it's ridiculous.
It was pretty disgraceful, to be honest with you. Like, I got a lot of friends that play in around the Matildas squad, a lot of them play in the W League and stuff, and like, I did not agree with anything he said. I thought that was,
I think in today's climate, it's just, you got to be very careful what you say online nowadays, because you're going to get cancelled quickly. You're going to lose your job quickly.
But like, especially after like everything they have achieved. Like,
Absolutely.
I know we always go back to the World Cup, but like they did so well. You know what I mean? And they might be going through a little bit of a rough patch at the moment, but when does that every team goes through a bit of a rough patch?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like that's just the way sport goes. You're not going to be always winning every game. You know what I mean? If you're doing that, then you know what? Hats off to you. Like you're doing
But
something.
it doesn't
happen though, because that's just the way sport is. Like I feel like you can't be saying them comments at all. Like I don't care who you are.
Marty Sheargold, got to be better.
Pork chop. I think the biggest thing on my end as well, coming from a father's perspective, is like, what if we were in the car listening to that radio and my daughter was listening to it?
Yeah.
You know, that was the biggest thing on my end. Like, you know, we can shrug it off and go, all right, cool, like you're a piece of shit. But for a kid, like they don't understand sarcasm. They don't understand if we're joking or not.
Yeah.
So for them to hear that and go, oh,
take it literally.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like that's what Liesl Jones, I think she's on the same radio station. I think she said
And
something like that.
kids are fragile. Like their confidence can be smashed pretty quickly. And plus, the other thing too, kids growing up now, especially a lot of young girls with sport, the opportunities they're going to have over the next 5-10 years is going to be greater than we've ever seen.
Yep.
And that's off the back of a lot of the progression in women's sport over the last probably 5 years. I think it's really kicked into gear.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, like you said, they are selling out stadiums and it is entertaining and there is an audience for women's sports. So
was that was a World Cup run, wasn't it? That they were on, but
that was
I remember
loose,
watching that,
man.
and that was unreal.
How good was that?
You were tuned in every single game
See,
and just riding it.
I went to a few of the games and you could just see the atmosphere was just like buzzing. Everyone was really happy to be there and everyone was really supportive. And I think like you see that and then you got, like, as I said, you go through a rough patch and everyone just starts, you know what I mean? But that's just, let's be honest, that's media in general.
It is.
Yeah.
Whenever you're doing well, everyone praises you, but whenever you're not performing at your best,
They're on you.
Yep.
they're on you. Like, that's just the way it is. They're your friend 1 minute and they're your enemy the next minute. So you just can't win, you know what I mean? And with those comments, you just can't be saying that stuff.
And I think it's probably good to ask you, Lockie, as well, with performing now at an elite level with your career and being on the big stage and having videos taken of you online and comments. It's so easy now to comment on performance. And how do you go about handling criticism and haters and things like that? Not only online, but also in person. And because stadiums, you get hecklers, and even in public, out in the piss, you'd get people, smart asses and all that sort of stuff. Like, what's your approach to that and how do you handle that?
Honestly, I love it. It sounds weird, but I love it. I love, like, after games, I love going through the comments, and it's probably not a good thing, but I love it because it actually makes me more fired up. Like it actually fuels me to go, all right, I want to prove you wrong, sort of thing. Like I had a lot of people when I first signed here. I read a few of them saying, "Oh, he's done nothing. He's done this," and it wasn't really Newcastle fans. It was more like outsiders. You know what I mean? And I was like, all right, like. This is my time to prove people wrong because that's how I've always been growing up. Like I've had to prove people wrong. So when I read them things, it fuels me. Like, and if someone like gives me a bit of criticism or a bit of shit on the field, it makes me more pumped up. So it's actually, you're probably better off not doing it to me because it's going to make me more fired up to play better.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's how I take it. I know some players are different with how they approach it, and some people aren't as good with dealing with it, but me, on the other hand, I love it.
Yeah. Now, take me back, Lockie. Let's go back to you as a youngster, finding your feet with sport, soccer, football. You know, what initially got you engaged? Was it a sport at school you were doing? Is it something your mates did? Can you give me like a bit of a rundown on finding your love for sport and how you got a kickstart with football?
Yeah, well, I was always lucky. My dad's a tennis coach, so
Sweet.
I grew up playing tennis when I was younger.
Yeah.
And then I decided to play football. It was more purely out of going and joining a team sport.
Yeah.
When I was 9, I went to America and played tennis. And then I think when I came back, I just realised, like, I wanted to be in a team sport environment. Like, probably now I am still better at tennis than I am at football. And I'm doing football as a living. Like, that's just how I was lucky with that.
Yeah.
But it was more, tennis was very tough mentally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for me, like, I looked at that and I was like, okay, a team sport may be good for me at a young age. It was weird. I just loved it. And I was never the best. I was never your 10 out of 10 star player. I reckon I was probably your 7 out of 10 player, but I'd give you the same consistency every week. And
Yep.
the one thing that I pride myself on is my work ethic and those type of things, and that's why I've got to where I've gotten to because of that.
Yeah, hard work.
I was never, as I said, talented growing up. Like I just,
Hustled.
Yeah.
What are some of your earliest memories, representatively in terms of not maybe tennis, but also football for you? Like, do you remember any moments that you can sort of think about that you feel like has shaped you and your progression with your football?
I look at from the age of 13 when I started playing like NPL and stuff, majority of the teams I played at, like I had more clubs than Tiger Woods at this stage. Like, because majority of the teams I played at, I got dropped after that year.
Yeah, okay.
So like I had like 6 clubs growing up,
Yep.
going till I was like 20.
Yep.
And then, yes.
So Blacktown City?
Yeah, so I was at Blacktown City when I was in under 20. So prior to that, played like my junior. I had under 13s at Marconi, and then I was at Manly United for 2 years.
Yep.
And then I went to Central Coast.
Yep.
Then after Central Coast, I went to Spirit back in Sydney.
Yep.
And then after that, I went to Blacktown City.
Yep.
And then they told me I wasn't going to get a first grade sort of gig there. So I dropped back and played first grade in NPL 2, which is like the level below.
Yep.
And then...
Is that for the Spartans?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then after that first season there, I was like, you know what, stuff it. I'm going to go to England and just give it a crack.
Yep.
So I did that. I was working as doing a bit of like chippy work, and then I was installing like pool filters and...
Over in England?
No, in Australia.
Sorry, here,
to save up money to go.
Gotcha,
to pay for my visa.
Yeah.
Because I was really just set on it. I was like, I'm moving to England.
Yeah.
And then I went over there, had a few trials and stuff, and then COVID kicked off, so I had to come home. And honestly, it was a blessing in disguise, because when I came home, I went back to Spartans and I had a few games, and the NYL coach, which is like your youth team coach at MacArthur, because they were just starting up, watched one of my games, and it was actually against Jets. I think we won 5-0, I think, in like against their youth team, and I think I scored 2 goals that game, and he wanted to bring me in for the youth team.
Yeah.
And then I went in for the youth team, and then it just went from there.
So just for any listeners out there who aren't familiar with football in Australia, can you give me a bit of an understanding of the levels below the A-League?
Yeah. So you got the A-League, which is your top league, and then you got the NPL.
Yep.
So in each state, they've got their own NPL. So you got like NPL Queensland, NPL New South Wales, NPL Victoria. And so there's like, so they'll say just NPL New South Wales, for instance.
Yep.
And then you got NPL 1, I think it's called now, which is the level below.
Yep.
And then it just keeps going down from there.
Sure.
And then you obviously get into your grassroots, which is like your local footy teams
as
and
well.
Stuff. Yeah. So for me, I went from NPL 1, which is like 2 leagues below.
Yep. A-League.
Straight to A-League.
Right.
Which isn't really classified as, they say, normal.
Sure.
But nothing's normal.
So
these days,
do you
really,
feel like
is it?
when you played for MacArthur, was that your breakout few years as far as getting a start in the A-League and really finding your gears and proving to yourself that you can play at that level? Yeah,
so like when I went to MacArthur, so I was originally brought in for the NYL team, and then one day, NYL hadn't even started yet.
Yeah.
And the MacArthur first team coach, which was Ante Milicic at the time, he had people trialing and stuff for the A-League team, and they had all their players in, like Mark Milligan, Tommy Orr, like all these big dogs that have played for the Socceroos, like Federici, and you had like players that, like Matt Darbyshire, who played for Blackburn and stuff, like all these big dog names.
Yeah.
And so they said to the NYL coach at the time, like, oh, do you have a player that can come in, which was Mille. They asked him about having a player to come just fill in for numbers.
Yeah.
So I went in, and I was sort of lucky. The day I came in, there was a running test.
Oh,
and I love running.
perfect.
So it's
Let's
like
go.
I stood out a little bit with that, which was good for me because I was like, oh, I'm buzzing here. But at the end of the day, I just knew I was coming in as a number. But then it went from like...
What was the running test, sorry? What did you do?
I think it was like a 4-minute run around the AFL field.
Did you just smoke everyone?
Oh, I wouldn't say smoked everyone, but like I did well.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's what I was good at.
Running.
But if it was anything to do with the ball at the first, I probably would have been like, oh, jeez.
Oh, no.
But yeah, so we did that. And it was sort of like, as I said, a blessing in disguise because that was what I was good at. But I started off with 1 day a week training with them. And then it went 2 days, 3 days. Then 3 months later, I'm training full time with them.
Yeah, right. And is that something that you just, after like started 1 day, 2 days, that you would just train more, get to know the boys more, obviously build a relationship with the coach?
It was more because when I was there, they had all these trialists, and each week one guy was gone.
Oh,
and there was
catch ya.
another guy was gone, and I
See
wasn't
ya.
even trialing. So like, got to the point where I'm sitting in a change room, and one of my teammates now, Charles at Newcastle, he was with me, and there was like 4 of us left in this change room, and I was like, everyone's just getting knocked off each week. Like it's just like disappearing act.
Yeah.
And then 3 months in, before we played Newcastle up here in a trial game, they invited me to come on the camp.
Sure.
Like a preseason camp.
Yeah.
And we were just before we versed Newcastle, they came up to me and said, "Look, we're going to offer you a 1-year deal."
Wow.
And they go, like, prove yourself.
Was that after the camp?
That was right. So we had the camp all
Yeah,
week, and
yeah.
then we were playing Newcastle Jets in a friendly game, and it was
Yeah.
right before, like literally as we were hopping on the bus to go to the Newcastle to
They
verse
said we want to
Newcastle.
give you a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
You hadn't even played yet.
I had played heaps of trial games.
Yeah.
Like, and I was doing really well. Like I think I scored in pretty much all the games I played in.
Yeah.
But it was just before this game. It was like before we played this friendly game. They go, "Here's a contract." Literally on the bus is like there, and the piece
Yeah.
of paper's here.
Yeah, right.
And they go 1 year to prove yourself, and I was like, all right. So I just signed it straight away. Didn't even read it. Just
went
went,
bang.
"Yep, see you later." Didn't really care about anything. Didn't care about money side. Just
Yeah.
bang.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the first game for the club, because this club just started. The first ever game for the club I started, and at Combank Stadium, and that's when everything sort of kicked in, because then you go like, shit, like,
We've got a year
like,
to...
yeah, but you also like when I played my first game, it was really emotional, because like all my family and friends were there, and it's just like you're pretty much saying like everything you sacrificed for me, and all the things you guys have done for me and been there for me, supported me through everything. Like,
Yeah, this is it.
this is it. You know what I mean? It's like when you see an NRL player make his debut, like
True.
everyone's buzzing, because it's like, it's emotional, because it's like you put in so much hard work, and it's like my parents drove me every single weekend to all these bloody games, like down to Wollongong, up the Central Coast and Newcastle, like traveling heaps. And it's just like all that sacrifice wasn't for nothing. Like,
Yeah.
like
And it's cool too, because I guess now when you get older, I think when you're younger, you obviously don't appreciate that sort of stuff.
Nah.
But as you get older, you realize how life works. You're like,
100%.
holy shit, the hours spent on the travel, the money, like
Exactly.
living now, cost of living is just crazy. It's like, I don't even want to. I'll put $20 fuel in my car, and that's it. Like, I'm not filling in a full tank. Like, I'm doing $20 bombs once a week, and that's like max. So I think it's cool. Like you said, it all leads to that one moment. You can actually appreciate everything that your parents and your friends have done for you.
100%. And I think the biggest thing was my coach at the time, Arte. He pretty much came up to me after the first game, like I had a good game, like in a sense, for my debut. But he came up to me and goes, "Oh, look, like," he goes, "the hard work starts now."
Yeah.
He goes like congratulations, but like the hard work starts now. And I was like, you know what? He's not wrong. Like, I feel like getting there was actually, I wouldn't say easiest. Nothing's ever easy, but like
No.
if you look in the grand scheme of things, what's the easiest part? Staying there is the hardest.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like making sure you're still competing at the like your level that you need to compete at is the
Yeah.
hardest. And
Yeah.
he wasn't wrong. Like even now, like I'm still pushing myself to like next levels purely
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I have to, because if you want to be at this stage and you want to stay there, it's like
Yeah.
any sport. There's people coming through ready to take your spot.
Yeah,
So
true.
if you're not performing, someone else is ready to go.
Yeah, I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but do you prefer football? Is soccer okay or football? Like,
In
I mean, I've
Australia,
always called it soccer,
in
but
Australia,
like,
it's football, soccer. But if I go to, like, I got a few friends in England that I've played with at MacArthur, and when I say soccer, they go, "Bro, what are you doing?"
okay,
It's like,
let's go.
okay,
We'll go
sorry.
football. Football. So I know you mentioned before, you didn't even look at the contract with money and things like that. Traditionally, like in Australia, football wouldn't be ranked in like the top, like the high end as far as people who go and watch, probably pays and things like that.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's something that is growing moving forward? Because I know personally, over the last few years, I feel like off the back of some of the success from the international game with the Matildas, Socceroos, it probably is becoming, it's growing. And I also feel like the junior development has improved a bit as well. And I've got a few friends who play juniors and things, and they've mentioned to me that the programs they implement, and that's so important in professional sport, pushing money into the junior development. How do you feel about football as a whole in Australia right now? Do you feel like it's something that still is lacking a little bit of not drive, but do you feel like there's room for improvement?
I feel like I look at the A-League when it first started and it was packed. Like you had heaps of different
Big
fans
names.
and big names as well. But it was like everyone would go and watch. Like it would be packed out stadiums. And yeah, you got big names, but I feel like football's a real cultural type of sport. Like people from different like ethnicities like will go to watch. Like 'cause that's just the way it is. You look at Europe and you look at all these other countries. Football's massive,
international,
because at the end of the day, that's mainly their only sport. You know what I mean? Like you go to if you think of the country Brazil and you go sport, what do you think of football straight away? You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of countries that are like that. In Australia, we grow up and we got NRL, AFL, we got football, we've got like, cricket, we got everything. You know what I mean? And everyone's competing with each other. Like it is growing, and we had a bit of a period where it dropped off like a lot. Like. Don't get me wrong, because we went from massive crowds to dropping off. And I think that was to do with a few like rule changes with like fan bases, because at the end of the day, it's different to like your rugby league, AFL. Like rugby league, you go to a game, like you support your team, but there's a few hecklers that rinse the ref or whatever like that. Yeah. But in football, it's literally two fan bases against each other. Yeah. Because you can go 90 minutes and it's 0-0 and someone scores right at the death. You know what I mean? Like, it's just two fan bases singing the whole time, like the flares and stuff. You look at Europe, that's normal. Here in Australia, we try to minimise it a little bit.
Sure.
And put a blanket over it, which sort of takes away the football,
the atmosphere,
the atmosphere, but what football is. You know what I mean? Like
the spectacle.
Exactly. It's so the fan bases, you can't compare it to NRL fans because it's so different. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like in Australia we do that a lot. Yeah. But then you look at Europe, like my mate was telling me from my team last year. He played in France. Yeah. And he said that the fans where he played at were crazy. Like he goes, we lost. He goes, you couldn't go shopping for a week.
Wow.
Because like they were, because these guys spend their hard-earned money on the games, you know what I mean? They're dedicated fans. Like half of them had their same seat for like 20 years, you know what I mean? Like, and he said one day at the training ground, I think they lost and they were at training. And right before the game, they look over to like where the big gate is at the training ground. And there's the palm trees are on fire. And he's like, they're like, what the is going on? Like, flares and stuff. All of a sudden, all these fans just stormed the training ground. And I'm pretty sure he said one of his teammates just cop one to the jaw.
Wow.
Like, because they're just so passionate. And he also said that like their fan base was so dedicated. Like they had their own separate, like where they had their leaders. Yeah. And they'd bring him in one day to training and all the players would be sitting there. And they just get rinsed individually. Like, you've been shit today. You've been bad. You've been this. Because of just how passionate these fans are.
Well, it's such a good insight, but you're so right, because you look internationally with football, it is by far, it has to be like the biggest sport in international game. Like, you look at the leagues overseas, La Liga, EPL, the French league, like, they just dominate internationally. Yeah. Like, it's...
And you like when you go overseas, that's what you want to see. Everyone goes, oh, you want to go to an English Premier League game. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like the fans there are so dedicated. Like I know you're
not going to watch the Cowboys play over in England. The Cowboys play the Chooks.
But I've got like a few friends that have played in the Premier League and stuff, and I stayed at his house and he'll go down the street. He hasn't played for this team for years now. People still know him. They go, what are your thoughts on the team at the moment? Like they're worshipped over there. Like sort of like our NRL players here, but it's like bigger, you know what I mean? And then I got another friend that's just a fan, and he's had the same seat at West Ham for like 40 years. Yeah. Same seat. He's been sitting next to the same guy for 40 years.
You become best mates with him.
But that's what I'm saying, because that's like how a lot of them will never give up their membership. And they're at every single game, win, lose or draw.
It's a different level of support, isn't it? Like you think of league in Australia, like obviously Australia is fairly league dominated, particularly Queensland, New South Wales, and then your AFL does take over as you move further south. But do you find it, and this is a weird question, but is it frustrating at all for you in the sense that like it is so league dominated, Australia and AFL, and like do you sort of wish that culture they have internationally was brought, like it grew a little bit more in Australia?
I think it is here, but I don't think we've fully tapped into it enough.
Yeah.
If you sort of get what I'm saying, like
Yeah.
when I go back to the cultural sides, like you look at a lot of the NPL teams, a lot of them are owned by like certain different cultures. So for instance, like Sydney United is like a Croatian.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You look at, I don't know, Sydney Olympic, they're more like the Greek side club.
Yeah.
So each club has their own like cultural
Yeah.
side to them.
Yeah.
And that's what draws people in, because you look at those like those countries in the sense when it does come to football, how passionate their fans are. So we do have them there. It's just you got to try to tap into
hard.
it. And it is hard.
Do you think
you
it's a
know what I
money
mean?
thing? Like, do you think it's...
I do think so as well, but it's also you need to be generating money to
True,
spend
just
money as
true.
well. But also, if you do want to make money, it's a catch-22. Like you got to spend money to make money.
Yeah, that's
you know what I
right.
mean?
That's
Like,
right.
So you're sort of at the stage where it's like it's a bit of a tough.
Do you think
tough one.
do you think in Australia, in your opinion, is there room for like multiple sports to dominate the country? Like, do you think there is room for football in
100%.
Australia to have its worth and have its value in Australia as a sport?
100%. I feel like sometimes though each code goes against each other. Like
I agree
in
for
a sense
sure.
because
I agree for sure.
But I know that like there are NRL players and AFL players that watch football, and a lot of us A-League boys, we love watching NRL and AFL. We'll support it. But I feel like the higher up, sometimes there's a bit of a divide with
Yeah.
that. Like, and it would be
Do-
good
do you-
to really like.
what is that, do you think?
Everyone wants to be the best.
Yeah,
you know what I
true,
mean? So
true.
everyone
Money.
wants to be the best, and yeah, as you said, the money side. Like when it comes to AFL, want to dominate NRL.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
AFL don't like football
Yeah,
at
yeah,
all.
yeah,
Let's
that's
be
right,
honest. You know
that's
what I mean?
right.
But the thing is a lot of AFL players are ex-soccer players anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things where there's a bit of a divide. I think if we all came together a little bit and bounced off each other, then we would have growing sports. You know what I mean? But
I agree.
when that comes, yeah.
When that comes and how that happens, and I don't know how that looks, because Australia is such a tricky one because we are so divided.
Yeah.
Especially with sport. Like
100%.
you meet someone and you'll know very quickly, you get to know them. It's almost like one of your questions you have to ask someone in Australia is like, what team do you follow? Are you a
Yeah.
league? Like if you live in Newey, like you're asking someone like, you follow the Knights, or growing up in Townsville, up in North Queensland, mate, where rugby league was just like the Cowboys, mate, up there. It was just, that was life. Like that, there was no Aussie rules up there. No one. And then moving down, I went to uni down in Geelong, Victoria.
Yeah.
And how polarizing it was so eye-opening for me to actually feel that cultural difference and shift in just where you lived, and how the Geelong Cats were like, all glory to God, you know,
Exactly.
and I didn't realize, especially in Australian sports, how apparent that was until I moved around a little bit and realized, oh wow, like where you live matters. And but it is interesting. I don't have the answers to how, but I would love to see football grow more. And I don't know how that is possible or how that will happen. But like you said, you've got to spend money to make money.
Exactly.
And I don't know whether you need to sign some big names like internationally. Like I don't know how you do that, but
I think the big names are there. Like Juan Mata signed this year for.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah.
he's still playing or not, but
Yeah, he
he's
is.
still like that's one of the biggest players ever, arguably.
He's won a World Cup.
Yeah. But I think the thing that NRL does so well is their like, what would you say, their media side of things.
yeah.
I think that's next level. AFL's good as well, but maybe because I don't really see the AFL side of things, but the NRL side of things, the way that they market things, the way that they
True.
like
Like
even
their talk show? You mean like NRL 360 and all that, or
do we have stuff like that for the A-League? I might be
Yeah,
wrong.
they have brought it in this year, and I think it, as I said, it's hard because as we go back to the money side of things, like
Exactly, yeah.
you got to spend money to make money in a
Yeah.
sense, and I feel like the NRL has this constant revenue, like going to Vegas and things like that. Like that's putting it on the map. You know what I mean? If we went to Vegas to play, there's already a league in
yeah.
the
Yeah.
US.
Yeah.
They've got the MLS.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like, what's the point of us going
Yeah.
over there? You know what I mean? Like,
100%.
there's
Yep.
so many different leagues around the world. You know what I mean? So like, that's the only good thing about being a football player is that you're not limited to just staying in Australia.
True.
Like
True.
my friend, for instance, just signed in Austria. You
Yeah,
know what I
wow.
mean? And
Yeah,
I know other people that have played overseas. I met so many players that have come to Australia to play who are from all different countries, you know what I mean? And they've played in the Prem, they've played here, and they've done this, and it's just it's an eye opener because there's so many different countries to play. It's not just NRL is just Australia.
Yeah.
And obviously England a bit, but not as big.
Yeah, it all does come back to that money side of things. Hey, like if that revenue was there, like I was just thinking in my head, imagine if we had like an A-League version of like a Jimmy Bullard's show that he does over in England where they do those top bins and stuff like that. Imagine if you had, say, like a Timmy Cahill running people through that, or something where it was like the Matty Johns versions of A-Leagues. I don't know. It's just if we had the money there, of course. But I think back to the A-League. I remember like when I was growing up, it was the biggest. It was bigger than NRL on my side. I remember the Jets crowds were bigger than the Knights crowds.
Yeah.
Like that was a lot of the time. And I remember like going to the A-League and watching Joel Griffiths, Nicky Carl, Mark Bridge, like just having that run where Mark Bridge scores. I still remember that, like going absolute limbs down in Sydney, and when we beat Central Coast 1-0. And like it's, of course the team's doing well, right? Like that's the reason why it was memories. But I reckon it's close. Obviously, we're very, very close.
Well, we're getting recognised in Australia now, though, because of players. A lot of players are getting sold overseas at the moment.
Yep.
Like you got Irakunda, who signed at Bayern Munich. You know what I mean? Like, and that's a big club.
Massive club.
You know what I mean? They're massive.
Yep.
Like
even like what's the cup called over here? Not the FA Cup. What's the cup over here? The
Australia Cup.
Yeah, the Australia Cup. We have like the NPL sides compete and stuff. What was that game recently? Where it was in the NPL sides?
Oh,
and they had
that
the
was Preston Lions were versus in South Melbourne or something. And that's when I go back to the cultural thing.
Yeah.
Like these two clubs are massive in Melbourne, and they had like at an NPL game they had like I think it was like 9,000 people there.
Oh wow!
At this small,
That's
like
massive.
it was chockers. Like if you see the videos, like it was ridiculous. And I look at that and it's like I'm like, this is sick. This is what football is. You know what I mean? That's how it's always known as that, because as I said, you could go 0-0 for a whole game and there's one goal right at the end, and it's like everyone just goes nuts.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's there, and the players are there. It's just, as I said, tapping in, but and also it is a worldwide sport, so it's so hard because all your best players are getting bought overseas at the moment, which is good for the league because we're getting recognised more, which is what we need. You know what I mean?
True.
But and you go back to like say Newcastle as a whole, when you're going back to that time, there are football fans up here in Newcastle. I know that for a fact. You know what I mean? Like there is heaps of them, and when your team's doing well, like they'll get around you. You know what I mean? And I think there's been a bit of a period of time over the few years where Newcastle haven't achieved of what the fans want. And I think this season, like as I go back before we went on a 7-game unbeaten streak, like things like that, and that's the first time that's happened in 20 years now, since 2005. And things like that, fans go, oh, okay, there's something's changing here. You know what I mean? And that's what you want to build, because as you said, there is fans in Newcastle. You remember going to games and stuff, and they're there. It's just getting them to come to games. You know what I mean? That's the hardest thing, because they've gone through a period where it's been not great with change of ownership and all that kind of stuff, which is always going to put a bit of a...
It's going to make things difficult.
Yeah.
For sure.
So.
Well, am I right in saying, were you part of the Australian Cup win years back?
Yeah, when I was in
2020. Was it 22? Did you play that game?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you? Because I did some research, and like that had to be a pretty big moment for you in terms of seeing what success looked like at the top end. What was that like for you?
Yeah, that was sick. That was a good year. We had Dwight York as our coach, and it fizzled out halfway through the season, but that cup run was sick. Like as a team, you're just buzzing. You know what I mean? Like anytime you win anything like that, it was actually sick. But the funniest story actually came from that. It was post
celebrations, or
post celebration. So we organised this night, and Dwight knew about this.
Yeah,
we had this team night planned, and it was like, okay, we're gonna celebrate like the win and whatever. So one of our friends from our team organised like this place.
Yeah.
So we all go there, we're all having a few drinks and stuff, as you do when you celebrate.
Yeah.
And we get a message at 10 o'clock saying, hey boys, need to be in at training at 7:30 tomorrow morning.
Oh no.
This is from Dwight. And we're like, what are we talking about? Like half of us are like pretty much drunk.
Yeah.
Well, not pretty much, we are.
We are.
Like, and like even one of the youth boys got sent home early because he was just gone. But like, so we were finished, and it was like being at 7:30, and we're like, nah. So we all just went out, whatever.
Yeah.
And I still remember to this day, the next morning, I've woken up, and I didn't even, like, to be fair, I think I slept like half an hour. Like,
Yeah.
I get up and we've got to drive to training.
Oh, no.
So we all go into training like at 7:30 in the morning. I'm still wearing the same kit I'm wearing the night before. I rock up and we're all sitting in the change room just like we were half. I reckon a few of them probably were still drunk. You know what I mean? Dwight walks in and goes, "Good work, boys. Just wanted to test you to see if you'd still rock up after a night out." He goes, "Go home, enjoy yourself."
You're kidding. Did everyone rock up?
Yeah. Oh, it was bar one. One boy was like, "No,
I'm not going in."
Like boys were messaging the group chat saying like, "Oh, the gate's closed. We can't get in."
Yeah.
And the coach's like, "No, it's not. We're here." So like, it was one of those ones where it was like a big stitch up. But that Australia Cup victory was sick. That really brought us together as a group. Like, like you're one big family. You know what I mean? And he was just testing us. Like, he loved that kind of stuff. And to be fair, looking back at it, it was hilarious. But at the time, you were like, no.
Were you all thinking like, did you, obviously no one knew it was going to be a prank, but were you like, is this a GL? Like, what are we going to be doing?
Oh, everyone was blowing up in the group chat.
Yeah.
Like, boys that never spoke as much at training were even messaging the group chat going, what is going on? Like, we're just, And I just remember just rocking up in this, like half of the boys rocked up in the same kit from the night before. So
mate, that's one of the all-time great jokes from a coach.
Oh, he did us dirty, but you know what? It was all in like
what? Because I think notoriously, when I think about football coaches and the antics you see them on the sidelines, the press conferences, and I'm very interested to get your outlook and your experience also with coaches in the football arena. Who are some of your favorite coaches, and what are some of the challenges you've had to overcome with working with difficult coaches, say?
Well, for me, in the A-League so far, I've had 4 coaches.
Yeah.
And all 4 coaches to me have been unbelievable. So I've never had, like, obviously, touch wood, whatever. I haven't had to deal with anyone that's not liked me for who I am.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Which is good. But obviously, if you're not playing, like, you can get to the stage where you're like, oh, like, stuff this guy. But I'm never like that. Like, for me, if I'm not playing, it's like, okay, what do I have to do to play? Like, what do I have to change? What do I have to work harder? I have to work harder in the gym. I got to work harder here. I got to do this. And so for me, nothing really changes. And all my coaches, like, I can't say I can single out a favorite because every single one has done something different for my career, which I'm so grateful for. So, like, yeah, I can't go, oh, this is my favorite coach by far, because I don't have favorites, because everyone's, you know what I mean, really done something different for me, each coach.
What can you give me an example of a couple of things that, like, say, a specific coach has taught you or given you, or?
I look at, so for instance, like say for instance, my coach now, Rob, Rob's given me a different outlook on football. He's brought a lot, like, he brought the fun back for football for me. Like, obviously, like at MacArthur, like, it was tough because I wasn't starting all the time. I was a lot of just coming off the bench and stuff. And obviously I wanted to start as a player. And Rob's brought me in and gone, look, like, let's keep it simple this year. Like, I want you to score goals. Like, I just want you to do well. Like, I want to help you improve my game. And that gives you a lot of confidence when a coach really believes in you like that. And all my coaches have, but he's done this different side to me this season where it's like, he's brought the best out of me. Like, this is the best season I've had to date. I think I've played like 12 games and I've got 6 goals, which I haven't done in the season before. Because he's given me that opportunity and he believes in me, you know what I mean? And all my coaches have believed in me. Like, I look at, say, for instance, with Dwight, like, he was teaching me things that I can do as a striker, which no other coach has. This guy's won the treble for Manchester United, you know what I mean? He was the striker, he was scoring goals, and I've learnt tips and things on how to hold off defenders, how to spin defenders, where to make my runs. Like, things like that you can't teach. I had Ante at the start who, he brought me in and taught me how to be a professional. You know what I mean? Like, how to
carry yourself.
Exactly, on and off the field, you know what I mean? And
that's unbelievable insight, hearing that. Like, just, you're right. The coach is teaching you such different things, whether it's actually on the field versus, like, off the field completely. Which you take,
as I said, you take it on board and you keep going with it. And I think for me, that was the biggest thing, was I've learned a lot from that.
That's man, that's actually really interesting to hear. Tell me just a little bit about joining Newcastle Jets. What that was like, what you've loved here, what's been challenging, how that's been for you.
Well, when I got like a phone call about it and I like heard about it, I was buzzing. I was like, this is sick.
Yeah.
Like this is what I wanted. This is everything. Like when I got told I'm like, this is Newcastle, like, and I've obviously been in Newcastle before. I was like, yeah, this is what I want. New opportunity, fresh environment. And Newcastle's a sick place.
Great spot.
You know what I mean? I love it up here.
What are the boys like in the team? Who are some of your closest mates?
They're all legends. To be fair, we all get along like a house
really
on fire.
well.
So I can't really say anything bad about them. But yeah, so like for me, like, yeah, the Newcastle boys are sick. The environment's sick. The lifestyle's so good. Yeah, yeah. And now I know why a lot of players love playing here. You know what I mean?
True. That's cool. Well, I think we've been going for like over an hour, so I'll wrap it up with a couple of final questions and points. I wanted to ask you, because I feel like this is just a pretty standard, I guess, football question. Greatest of all time, GOAT debate, as far as like Messi, Ronaldo. Like, have you got a strong opinion on that, or?
Oh, I get asked this question by kids all the time after the game. Messi, Ronaldo.
Messi, Ronaldo.
I'm like, they're so good in their own ways. I don't know. Like, it's a tough one. I don't know. Who would you pick?
I'll probably go.
See, it's not easy.
Nah, it's not easy. I'd probably go Ronaldo, but my answer would be based off like shit factors, like just like who's
more ripped or who's got
it'd be like who does more content stuff, like you know what I mean. Like wouldn't be based on the actual football ability, but.
Who would be a better bloke on a night out? Like
exactly, things like that. Who would you rather have a beer with? Yeah. Which I think Ronaldo, he seems pretty strict as far as his diet and his kids and that. I don't think he definitely wouldn't be having a beer. Give me a bit, or the audience as well, just a brief rundown on a week leading up to a game, if you don't mind, in terms of like your training blocks, diet, mental preparation. What's a week like for you leading up to a game, say on like a Saturday or a Sunday or something like that?
Well, obviously, normally we do a 2-day lead in. It's called. So like, say for instance, let's start on Monday. We'll go Monday, Tuesday train. Gym in the afternoon on that Tuesday, and then day off on the Wednesday. And Thursday's like start your engine sort of thing. We're just getting your body going. We're training still, but not as an intense session. And then day before we do a bit of tactical work. We're still training as well, and then obviously leading into the game on the Saturday.
So it's a pretty busy week.
Yeah, it's pretty busy. Like you're training every day pretty much. Like the first 2 days back, it's quite intense, a bit more conditioning work leading into that day off. And then the next 2 days, you're just trying to get your body ready for the game.
What about mental preparation for you? Are you big on that side of things? Or?
Yeah, like I started doing a lot of more visualization lately. In the sense of just like
manifesting?
So simple, but it's like just visualize myself like scoring a goal or something like that. Wow. And to be honest with you, like you get to those scenarios and you feel a bit more like calm, like in a sense like, oh, I've done this before. Okay, just relax, just take a touch and then finish. Sort of things like that. Like it doesn't work every time. No. But it has helped me a lot in that sense.
That's interesting.
Like, I feel like visualization is very powerful in a sense that you just picturing yourself there in that moment already. And when you get to that moment, as I said, you just calm and relax. You're like, oh, I've done this before. This is easy. You know
that's cool.
And it's a weird technique. Takes a bit to get used to it.
Would you say it's comparable to like meditation in some sense, or sort of a
little bit?
Is something you're spending like most days you'll do a bit of it on, or before a game,
more like 2 days before a game, I'll start to just visualize and and I always talk like if I'm talking to someone like, I'm going to score this weekend, like just put that in my mind. Good energy, manifest that. Boys will like laugh at me like this year because there'll be times when I've got back from injury, like I'll be on the bench and I'm like, I'm going to go on and score the winner today. And they're like, this guy's crazy. One of my mates that I've been playing with years, he goes, you're crazy, because he knows what I'm like. I went on and scored the winner. It's like, I just put that in to my into
Made
my
it
head
happen.
and make myself think that this is going to happen today.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Then when it gets to the chance, like it happens. You know
That's
what I mean?
sick. That's sick.
Yeah.
What about for you off the field? Like, what are some things you like to get up to in your spare time? Do you have any hobbies? What do you enjoy doing outside of when you're having to train your busy weeks and things?
Well, I'm at uni as well.
Cool.
Sorry, I am at uni, but it's like when I do it,
Yeah.
I can get a bit slack with it. So I'll probably do that today after this.
Yeah.
I play a bit of golf sometimes with a few of the
Yeah,
boys.
good.
Can't say I'm amazing at it, but I'm all right.
Getting better, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you got a handicap?
Nah, I just
yet.
can't be bothered putting the score.
Yeah.
So I do a bit of that, and I like making a bit of music, and I like DJing
cool.
and stuff. So I got my own DJ deck at home, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I really love music, and I've always loved music.
Yeah.
But it's like finding the time to do it, and you can't. It's not like I can go DJ to nightclubs.
Nah,
It doesn't look good
nah,
on my
nah.
end, even though I'd love to do
Not
it
before a
because
game. Yeah.
It's like that's something that I could do, but it's
Yeah.
probably not the appropriate.
That's so
thing.
hard. Nah, because DJing, it's just a whole nother world. Like the
mate,
late nights.
It's next
and-
level. Like one of my best mates, he's an artist manager, and he's like, it's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
they're on the
And
road
you're probably not
24/7.
doing it sober. Like you're probably having a few beers. Like
to
you're probably
calm the
charging a
nerves.
bit. Yeah.
Afterwards, you finish. After
Yeah.
party, it's like
Yeah.
far out. But yeah, I really love it. But it's just hard. So
What about some goals for you? Obviously, this year you want to finish off the season well with the Jets, but moving forward over the next couple of years, are there any standout goals that you've got written down? Is there anything in particular you're working towards, or are you someone who more is just sort of playing it along the way, focusing on the process, and hopefully you can take it as far as you can? Or
at the moment, I feel like in the past I've always set goals for long term, and they're always good to have. But for me now, at this rate, like I'm just grateful to be playing. Like I had a rough start to the season, so now I'm just taking every game as it comes.
Yeah, one
game
day at a time.
Game by game, and
Yeah.
and go from there. Obviously, for me, I want to try to pursue to go overseas and play
international,
and I'd love for one day to play for the Socceroos.
Yeah.
As any kid's dream is, like to represent your country would be just unbelievable.
Ridiculous, yeah.
Like I'd just give it my all because I'm just a straight down Aussie. Like, I just love it. Like, so that would be a bit of a goal as well. But for me now, just trying to win as many games as possible for Newcastle and score as many goals as possible. I just try to keep it simple this year. Score goals, win games, and
that's
like
good.
that.
And internationally, what would be like your dream club to play for, or like where would you love to end up?
Honestly, as you grow up, you're like, oh yeah, I want to play for this team. But it's like for me now, it's like an opportunity overseas
Anywhere.
would be sick. Like just to live somewhere else, like experience a different lifestyle, experience a different way or culture like that football is over in another country. Like just would be, as I said, sick to
Unbelievable.
experience. You know what I mean? And that's the
playing
good thing about
sport
football.
overseas would be hectic. Like
just something different. Like you look at how, as I said, you live in Australia your whole life. And you're like, you're just comfortable. It's like, I love being out of my comfort zone. I don't like being comfortable because when I'm comfortable, I get like a little bit on it. I love being, as I said, outside of my comfort zone.
Absolutely. All right, final segment to wrap it up, mate. I've done this for the last couple of episodes. I don't know if you've seen it, you probably haven't, but I've taken a few screens. Now, I was checking your Instagram. You don't have a whole lot of old photos, but basically what I like to do is explain the post, it's called. So I'm going to show you something that you've posted in the past, and you've got to explain what was going on. As I said, you didn't have a really deep, dark library of photos, but I still
deleted a few of them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you? It's almost like you had a breakup or something. And then, if you did, mate, it's fine. But we'll go explain the post. This is post number 1. Where were you? What were you doing?
So that was I was
To the camera. I'll zoom up on them there.
I went to Iceland to visit my mate, and there's Iceland's sick. I didn't picture myself ever going
crazy.
there. And just because he lived there, I was like, I'll go visit him. So I went and visited him, and we went to the waterfalls, and you can drink the water straight from the waterfall. And I swear, it's the freshest water I've ever had in my life. Like I've dipped my drink bottle in this little river. Like I just drunk the water straight. And he was telling me you can do it, like it's fine. I was like, nah, surely not. So I did it, and it was honestly, it was a sick experience. Iceland, if there's any way you want to go, like go and see Iceland. It's crazy.
And you're a bit of a surfer, mate. Explain the post. What's going on? Is this Newey or where are you here?
I was just running the water and I ran back out.
Yeah, you're not surfing.
That's in Sydney. That's ages ago, eh?
I told you I was deep in the trenches.
Yeah, that was ages ago. I haven't
Are
really
you still surfing?
Yeah, I haven't really had a chance to do it up here just because of being injured at the start,
Yeah,
which has
yeah,
killed
yeah.
it a bit. But yeah, probably not the greatest of photos.
How would you rate yourself as a surfer?
Oh,
10 Kelly Slater, 0 average a year.
I'd probably go like
Pretty
5,
sharp? Yeah,
5.
okay.
I
So
can surf, not like next level, but
you can surf.
Yeah.
And finally, explain the post. Where are you? Where are you here? And what are you doing?
All right, so we went for a walk in Melbourne after a game, and we found, because on the back of my jersey it says LA Rose, because when I was at MacArthur the first season there was another Rose in the team,
Gotcha.
and then we went to write L Rose.
Yep.
But we couldn't do that because he was Liam Rose.
Oh,
so
you're kidding.
He had Rose, so I had to write. They wrote LA because otherwise it didn't look right.
That's sick.
And so it's
LA
stuck
Rose
now.
is
And then we
cool.
found this street, and we're like, oh, we'll take this photo.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
I
sick.
like that. I like
so I've
that.
just sort of kept that now. Everyone goes, why don't you change it? I'm like, well, I've had it from the start, so I'm
gotta
just going to
keep
keep it now. Like, there's no point changing it. So
LA Rose. Oh, cool. Well, thanks very much for coming on today, mate. It's been good fun. I've personally enjoyed hearing the insights towards like what a week like for you is leading up to a game. I also found what you've learnt from your coaches very interesting. I find that's really, it's clearly for you, it's had a great impact on you. And I think that's super interesting. But also just getting to know you as well, what you do in your spare time and what you're doing with the Jets. Like, I'm definitely going to try and get down to a game and watch him.
Yeah,
I'll
you have
be
to.
one of those hecklers on the sideline heckling. Yeah, come on. But no, thanks very much for coming on today, mate.
cheers for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been good fun. But thanks everyone for listening, tuning in. If you are listening on Spotify, please make sure you follow, and YouTube, of course, subscribe. This has been episode number 25, Bailey Talk. See you guys next week. Peace.